So with that, because you've experienced a lot of them, right?
Yeah,
So
a lot of trauma.
yes, and those major life changes that we were talking about. And so I'm curious on some of your thought right now with approaching this idea of lifestyle change. What are some things that, good and bad, that you've experienced with that, and maybe even just thoughts around it?
Bad is the overwhelming amount of information.
Oh my gosh.
And it's not that it's bad having the information. It's just, okay,
What's real?
where do I start? What's real? What is actually good? You know, you see these recipes online, and it's this super healthy, low calorie this, high protein this, and you start looking through it and looking through the ingredient list, and you're like, something about that doesn't smell right. It's a little fishy.
Yeah.
And
It's interesting you say that, because that's one of the reasons that triggered me to go back to school as a dietitian. Was
okay.
exactly that. It's so much confusing information out there, contradicting.
Oh, I was just gonna say that. So contradictory. And that was my single biggest thing that I've had, and I've slowly, gotten more recipes, more things and stuff like that. But it was all the contradictory information that I, had a really hard time trying to go through. And
Yep. So our conversation today on everything kind of fits and how to look at that.
Oh,
does
100%.
that help so
Yeah.
much more?
Oh yeah.
You're going to look at it a little differently now.
100%. Yeah.
So we're going to hear this. We're going to see what that looks like.
Yep.
I like easy. If you really want behavior change or change that's going to last a long time, it needs to be easily applied. Our lives are busy.
Yep.
If I look at people in the grocery store, and they're struggling to read those labels.
Oh, yeah.
And it's difficult for dietitians, I think. So how do I say how this fits in the entire day? There's information that's supposed to make it easier to discern that.
Yep.
It's not.
No, it's not. It's made to be complicated, so you have to go to someone for it.
Right.
Just like mechanics nowadays. I mean, cars, I love working on cars, and I'll use that as an analogy multiple times in the future. But they used to be so easy to work on. And now you need a degree to work on a car. Like it's gotten insane. Everything's so
Mine have
different.
sensors on everything.
Yeah. Oh yeah, mine too. So I like my old car. my old car is great. My new one, it's great to drive, but it's not fun to work on.
Yeah. With that information out there, I think the easy patterns, because we think for some reason, going back to our change, that this lifestyle change needs to be this sweeping, all-encompassing,
this giant thing. Yeah.
Yes. And I have seen little tweaks, little changes that have tremendous effects. And that's the key. And then being able to sit there and have the little rewards, right?
Yeah,
the little
rewards. Well, and that's one of the things. So another thing that's been kind of a hard thing for me is I'm not a good cook. I'm not. I enjoy cooking. I just don't enjoy the results. There's a difference between those two things. I'm not very good at it.
Not your talent.
I have a terrible attention span when it comes to cooking. I get distracted by everything. But it has been rewarding when I do actually make something good, and it's healthy and it tastes good, and then I enjoy it. Then the next time I make it, it gets a little easier. And I'm paying more attention because, that was really good. I wonder if I just did this a little bit more, and then gives you it becomes the experimenting. It becomes more fun, and knowing it changes the way you're looking at the food and everything, and it changes the way you're kind of going about things.
Yep. I did video sessions where with some of my typically guys that had no experience in the kitchen were tackling this new idea. And the interesting thing is I would show up on the video, and they would give me the recipe, and I would be there on a video to support them in cooking. And what we typically found out, that it was they could do it just fine. They just needed that little bit of support.
Makes sense.
Yeah, to say, yep, that's right. You're reading that right. You're interpreting that right. Yep, do that. And oh yeah, one or two times, and they felt confident. So it's really building that confidence in the kitchen, or not making that again into something that is super complicated.
Yep.
You don't need to make a gourmet meal.
Nope.
You can make really fast meals. I am all about quick. Our lives are busy. It does not need to be complicated. It can be really fast and healthy.
Yep. Oh yeah, 100%. And I mean, I'm bad when it comes to that. If I'm gonna do it, I go all out. I take a day and I make 6 or 7 different meals that I can
I'm the
freeze
same
up,
way.
and because if I'm gonna cook, I'm gonna do it once and that's it. Like we're done. We're done for the week or two, and that's kind
Hmm.
of how I like it. But
But if it freezes good, it's worth it.
yeah, oh, 100%. Yeah.
Now the key is that if think about this, a lot of people will freeze the food and they
Mm.
won't go back to it.
Oh, I do. I like my food.
That's good. But what do you think is one of the barriers of going back to it?
Honestly, probably buying other stuff or having other
Which
stuff.
is related to
Well, probably the
the
trifecta. Yeah,
trifecta.
your favorite thing.
Right, because that healthy food in the freezer, if I am psychologically hungry, I'm going to be like, yeah, I should eat that, but I really want
Yeah, that
this
makes sense.
instead.
Well, and it probably relates to what you have in your pantry and your freezer and stuff like that. Mine's very empty. I have what I eat, and that's it. I don't have a lot of extra. I have the advantage of living alone, so I don't have to
Yep.
worry about
Hmm.
other people.
Yep.
And then my friends get mad when they want snacks. But that's a whole different thing.
But it is easier, especially in the middle of that change, if you have a hard time controlling yourself with snacks,
Mhm.
is to keep them out of the house for a bit.
Yep.
Increase the barrier. Not say I can't have them, but increase the barrier. If they're too accessible, it's too
Yep.
easy when that little desire comes to just automatically go there and mindlessly go
Yep.
there and eat it.
And that's what I had to do. Yep.
Hmm.
I had to remove kind of those things. So one of my guilty pleasures is Twizzlers. Love Twizzlers. Always have. No idea why. But that's one thing that I used to keep in the house, and as I'd be working on something, working on my computer, schoolwork, whatever, I would munch on Twizzlers, and I had to remove them because I realized that I was doing that
Too
all the
much.
time,
Hmm.
and it's yeah, trying to find some of those things, and sometimes you won't notice it. It took forever for me to even notice I was doing it,
Hmm.
but
It's
it just
interesting
became a
because I
habit.
think about some of those foods. So I am a chip fan, and if I know that I can mindlessly eat an entire bag of chips, and 150 calories per serving. Typically, most are going to have, let's say, it depends on your size of your bag, but let's just say it has 10 servings
Mhm.
in it. That's all more calories than I need in a day.
Oh yeah, that's more calories than anybody needs in a day.
But the interesting part of it is that you can eat that entire bag. Do you feel full?
Oh no, absolutely not.
No, your body didn't register it.
Well, and then the speed at which you probably eat them too. You just handful, handful,
But it's
handful.
still within 20 minutes. You should have it.
Should
It is uh, part of the ultra processed foods that it affects our hunger and satiety hormones differently. We don't know all of the information on it yet, but we do know, and I know that I have experienced it, that I can eat an entire bag of chips and I could go eat a meal.
yeah.
And you shouldn't, with that amount of calories, you should be satisfied. The hunger should be shut off, and it
Yeah.
doesn't.
Well, it's one thing you just said too is after 20 minutes. I mean, that's a big thing too that I had to start breaking the habit is
Yeah,
you eat and then you're like, oh, I'm still hungry, but you haven't
especially
given
for
it enough
veterans.
times. Yeah, I still eat really fast,
Yeah.
and
Have you found a tactic that helps you?
no, I haven't personally. Um, it I can slow down if I'm
Mindful.
actually thinking about it.
Mindful.
So if I'm home, that's one thing. I'm fine
Mhm.
with it. If I'm home, I'm not in a rush or anything like that. If I'm out, that is a different thing. I have a very hard time turning that off
Mhm.
because it still have that mindset when I'm out. Here's food, you eat it, you go. Like
Yep.
that's the way. Even if I know I'm just out hanging out with friends or family
Mhm.
and grabbing some food and gonna be there for a while, I'm still gonna do the same thing. I'm almost always the first one done. So it's a hard habit to break. It's not
It is.
impossible, but
Mhm.
you said you
It's
got
a
to be
very hard,
mindful.
very hard. One of the tactics that I have found to be helpful it was chew.
Yeah.
So a lot of times it sounds odd, but if you chew, um, more. So I would have some that would
Hmm.
just count and say chew 20 to 30 times. Like, wow, that much? Yes, 20 to 30
No
times.
kidding.
So the increased exposure to your mouth, you're going to have more of a satisfaction with that on less food. Plus, the actual chewing mechanism prepares your gut for digestion. So you digest the food a lot better,
Hmm.
and then you're also going to get more of an experience with it. It's going to slow you down, and you swallow it and then go to the next. And it's tremendous. It's a tremendous difference in being able to slow you down, get more satisfaction from the food, digest better, and feel more satisfied on less
Hmm.
food. So it's such a simple thing, it's hard to do because any change,
Yeah.
changing our habits are really hard. I have a really good story with this.
Mhm.
I'm going to throw my sister under the bus
It's
with this one.
not on me.
I said that to her years ago, and she came back to me, and she listens. She's more quiet, and she just listened, and she comes back and she goes, "I thought you were crazy." Oh, whatever, Dana. That's not going to work. But I said, "Did you try it?" She says, "I did try it." And she goes, "You know what I noticed?" She goes, "I didn't chew at all. I was just swallowing food."
Hmm.
And I think a lot of people do, especially if you're trained to eat fast, that you're really not even getting any enjoyment out of it. You're swallowing and so prepared for that next bite that you're not even enjoying the food that's in your mouth.
Interesting. Like I said, I never paid attention to that. I'll have to pay attention to that now.
We got a couple here.
Yeah, there's a couple things I'm going to be trying. A couple new things. I mean, and we've talked about a bunch of this stuff, but then some of it hasn't come up in conversation, so it's not stuff that I've even thought about.
Yep. Nope. No, and there's simple little tactics, and I've seen over years, and that little change can make a big difference. And let's face it, it's much easier to pay attention to the amount of times that you chew than trying to have enough willpower to stay away from something.
Yeah. No, I agree.
We don't want to agree with willpower; just doesn't work. You're going to fail with willpower.
Oh yeah. Willpower is it's great until it's not. It's not all encompassing, all existing, ever ending kind of thing.
Right.
So.
Right. So there's a lot of good tactics. Looking at that change and setting yourself up for success, it's that expectation, right? But I think when we also look at that, and we talked about those little bites, and we talked about making sure that we reward ourselves. But I think one of the things that I've seen people do, I like the analogy of like the change is the flag on the top of the mountain.
Mm-hmm.
So this is my goal. My goal is putting that flag at the top of that mountain. And we're overwhelmed at the beginning. We look at that mountain. We start to get it up there. We're up there. But interestingly enough, what we tend to do is focus so much on where we need to be that we forget to take stock in how far we've come.
Yep.
And what changes are there. So one of the things as a dietitian, what I've always done with my patients is say, especially when they start to feel down, like I still haven't hit my goal. It's so much time. Like I'm still not there. I still haven't put that flag on the top of that mountain yet, is to look back down and say, wow, look at what you have accomplished and what's setting in. Oh yeah, I don't even think about that anymore.
Yeah.
So that new rut's already been built. That's a huge accomplishment right there.
Yep.
So having a way to be able to take stock. That's why I'm so, working with a coach, working with a dietitian, we're that accountability partner. We also help to help you get out of yourself, get out of yourself's way, right? And say, you have done a lot and you've made these strides. But one of the biggest barriers, what do you think is the biggest barrier to doing that?
I don't know. I mean, I would just say biggest barrier is just habits.
I think habits are, but I think it's focus.
Focus.
And it's the focus on the scale.
Oh yeah, I guess the short-term kind of gains and the fact that people don't realize
they get that reward.
You will fluctuate constantly.
Yep, that reward 100% from that number on the scale when there's other things that are happening that are beneficial.
Yep.
And it clouds that judgment. Even if you know it, even if you know the information, that number on that scale can cloud your judgment on whether or not you're making strides and changes. So is there ways that you would have developed in measuring besides the scale?
I haven't personally, but I do the scale differently. I take every day throughout the week and then I average.
Oh, interesting.
It kind of gives me, because
there's fluctuations.
Yeah, you'll change. I mean, there may be one day that I drink more water and suddenly I went up pounds, or
no, you ate more salt and your body retained more water.
Well, yeah. Just making it simplistic, but that's the thing is you can fluctuate. I mean, I've fluctuated.
Pounds.
Yeah. I think the most that I've fluctuated over a week span was 6 or 7 pounds up and down.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, by the end of the week, I was down, but throughout the week, there were points that I was higher than I had started. So if you look at, just like you said, the instant gratification of the scale every single time, every single day, it's only going to dishearten you. And some people, it works. My little brother, that's what he likes, and it works for him because that's the way his mind works.
Yep.
So some people it works, Me, not so much. I hate looking at
But
that
he's
number.
maintaining.
Yep, yeah, he's
So, and I
maintaining.
think there's a difference between maintaining.
But he did drop for a while.
Okay.
So that was where that habit started for him.
Okay.
So maintaining, yeah, it's way more significant when you're maintaining.
I think it's more important to look at the scale when you're maintaining because you can catch it faster. But I caution the scale because of that body composition. The scale is going to lie to you.
Oh yeah, but it is good also to see, because you can see a visual progression. Because sometimes that's what they say is it takes time. Like if you're losing weight, it takes time for you to be able to see it. Other people will see it before you.
So one example that I use in my master class, I have a weight loss master class that I do, and I use myself as an example. So during COVID, we were starting to get such a good rhythm of the gyms, and then all of a sudden, sorry, you shut down. You don't get to go to the gym anymore, and I was so disappointed. And no social interaction. I'm a social person. I thought, wow, what am I going to do? So I thought, well, I'm going to start running, and I'm not a runner. I never used to be a runner. So I started out 1 mile, running 1 mile, and I got to a point where I was running 20 miles in a week. From 1 mile 1 to 2 miles at a time to 8 to 10 miles at a time.
Dang.
Yeah. And feeling great now. And I started all my measurements at the beginning. I jumped on the scale. I did body measurements, everything. And how much weight do you think that I lost over that period of time?
Probably not that much if you're bringing it up as a story. So you probably 0? So did you drop
4 inches?
Size-wise? Yep. Okay, that's what it is.
So when you let's think about this. Psychologically, if you were focusing only on that scale,
terrible.
You would feel like a complete failure.
Yeah.
Like I failed.
I did all this. I increased my running. I did all this stuff.
And you would give up on running.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's what I've had patients that have done that. They're like, this is not effective. Oh, no, it is. But 4 inches worth of fat loss is tremendous.
It's a lot. And I mean, you were replacing it with muscle. So you're not, to an extent. I mean, so if you weren't losing anything, you were replacing.
So I have a really good analogy that I like to use.
All right.
Football player, sumo wrestler. This is, say they're both 350 pounds.
All right.
Let's just say 350 to make things easy, right? I know people are going to say, but a sumo wrestler is typically this amount of weight, or it's not about that. It's just about the demonstration.
Yeah. Yep.
A football player tends to have more muscle for that weight, and a sumo wrestler tends to have more fat for that weight. They both exercise, so it's a very interesting comparison. And if you take that football player, their body composition is more muscle. Muscle is more like a running engine. So this engine is running, and it needs to be fed calories to be able to be maintained. It increases the metabolism. But for the same weight, a sumo wrestler has a different body composition, and that body composition is more fat-based, more adipose tissue. And that is energy storage. It doesn't need to be fed. It is the storage of energy. So there's a completely difference in metabolically. So metabolism is much higher for a football player versus a sumo wrestler, but also for physique and strength, and just tons of benefits focusing on more muscle base, regardless of the weight. The weight is the same. Their function is different. Their health is different. Their lifespan is going to be different. There's a tremendous difference in that. So I'm not an advocate for weight, a scale. I always say, throw that scale out. It's lying to you. No, but I have a scale. I do use it, but I also take that number with a grain of salt, because even knowing this information, it can be deceptive. But it is a gauge to know that you're on the right track, you're not on the right track. But have other ways to measure besides just the scale.
Yep,
so body, especially waist circumference, if at all, waist circumference or hip circumference are some of the major ones to watch. Because if the number on the scale isn't moving and you're starting to reduce waist, you're doing the right thing. That metabolism is starting to burn, and it's burning calories, and it's doing the right activity to burn the fat. If we focus too much on the scale, what tends to happen is we're exercising and we feel we're not doing good enough, and we eat less. And you can't build a house without lumber. So you want to build muscle without protein?
Oh yeah, then
you're setting yourself up for failure. So we want to be okay with saying, yep, I'm doing the right thing. Now when you start to plateau, then we need to make an adjustment. But
so there will be times you make adjustments. It's not all going to be the same.
You have
Yeah,
to.
so.
Yep. There's major adjustments because our body's fighting against us
Well,
in the
yeah, of
entire
course.
process.
Well, it's like you talked about the set point. I mean,
Yep.
there's set points, but every time you go from it and you're trying to change it, it takes a while for that next set point to register and actually
The key part of that is going to be muscle. So if we don't increase muscle and we do all of our weight loss based on weight and not muscle, unless we're doing a weight loss medication, which there's a whole new conversation over there. I'm not anti-weight loss medications, but it's different.
Yep.
Is that you really need to be able to have that muscle in order to maintain the weight loss.
Makes sense.
So that will be the key. And in knowing, everybody will say, well, I know muscle weighs more than fat for the size, but being able to apply it again and see it in person and be okay with it is the challenge, I think, because we feel like, oh, nope, we don't have anything going on. I need to eat less.
Yep.
Because that's been the mantra: eat less and exercise more.
Yep.
But we need to feed. So I always think, remember that analogy: can't build a house without lumber.
Yeah.
You can, but it fits, right? Like
you're replacing it with something else. So
you have a different component. You need the building block, and the building block for your muscle is protein. So, so getting enough protein.